Dear brothers and sisters, we all know that we are here on a holiday. Gone is the hustle and bustle of life. I'm sure you're not turning your alarm clocks on in the morning. I hope you're brushing your teeth. Having some breakfast. But you don't have to commute to work. Gone are the hour or two of, running through traffic and getting to so-called area work. And as we gather together, we want to be totally relaxed. We want to be in a state of timelessness. We want to enjoy the moments and not feel as if we have to do certain things, because in our day-to-day life, that's how our life goes. We have the alarm clock, we get up, we brush our teeth, we eat breakfast, we rush to work, we go through traffic, we get to what we call work. Whether we work there or we talk about the football games or we plan our vacations, it's supposed to be work. And it's tiring. Being away from home from 10 hours and doing things that you really don't enjoy cannot make one very happy. And the pressures of doing things because we feel it's a responsibility is what burdens us. There's a story about a young kid, and there was a young boy, and when as boys you play with your friends. So as he was playing with his friend, he looked quite worried. So his friend asked me, what is bothering you? The young boy says, no, I'm very, very worried. So his friend said, what are you worried about? He said, my dad is a very difficult life. He gets up in the morning, he has his breakfast, he drives 2 hours to go to work. And he says, I don't enjoy working, I don't like the people there. My supervisor is obnoxious. And so the young boy said, I asked him, where do you work? He says, I work because I want to give you a car when you're 16 years old. I work because I want to pay for your education when you go to college. I work so I can save money and make your life easier, and that's why I'm going through this drudgery of going to a place where I don't enjoy anything and I'm there. The young boy says, I look at my mother. She's cleaning the house, she's running around here, she's washing the clothes. She also has part-time jobs. And when I talk to her, she says, I have to work hard to make sure that you're provided. So his friend says, what is there to worry about? He got it made. Your dad works, your mom works, they're working like crazy, they're providing for you. What are you worried about? He says, I'm worried if they run away. This is what happens to many of us. We feel we have to work because it's our responsibility. But underneath it, all we're thinking, how can I get away from this? Why do I have to work so hard to take care of all these other people? Why can't they work hard and take care of me? Those thoughts come to us all the time. And most people are going through life in a manner in which to take care of their responsibilities, life just goes on without any purpose. And so, from the hustle and bustle of life, we take a vacation. We go on a holiday. And when we are on a vacation, we want to leave our alarm clocks at home. We want to relax. We want to be in a state of timelessness, where time is not going to be affecting our lives. whether you get up at 4 in the morning or 6 or 8 or 10, depending on the kind of jobs you have. On a vacation, you just want to be relaxed. So what is timelessness? And how does it affect our life? And as we are all on a vacation here, how can we be in this timeless state? There's a small hypothetical incident that I like to talk about. One young man was good. And since he was good, he had an audience with God. So when he had an audience with God, he had questions. We have questions of God. We want to get the answers. We know if we get a hold of God, we get the right answers. So he asked God, he says, God, what is 1,000,000 years to you? God says, just like your second. And he thinks and he says, God, what is $1,000,000 to you? And God says, oh, it's just like your penny. And so he thinks. He says, God, can I have one of those pennies? He didn't hear the punchline before he clapped. God says, certainly, wait up a second. That's timelessness. That's the state we want to be in a state in which time has no effect. And so what keeps us from being in that state? There are only two culprits. It's the past and the future. Those are the two culprits which keep us from being in a state of timelessness. And so when we start to think of how time affects us, it's always the past, because we remember things from the past, we remember what had happened, and we remember how things were either good or bad, and they affect our current moment. And it's the future, when we're not sure of what is going to happen, or we have anticipations, or we plan, which affect our current moments too. And since we've been talking about so many stories with wise old men, I thought I'm going to talk about stories with wise old women. That's why yesterday I talked about a story of a woman. Today also, we live in equality zone these days. So there was this wise old woman, even though no woman is old. So there's a wise woman. There's this wise mom, the mother, and she gives advice to her sons who are graduating from school and they're going to go into the workforce. She says, as you work, you have your own household, you'll get married, you'll have your own families. I have good advice for you. She says, as you live in your houses, you might have guests. She says, you'll have 3 kinds of guests that will knock on your doors. One of them is going to be the past. The second one will be the present. And the third one will be the future. So she tells them, my advice to you is, don't let the past and the future come into your house. Only allow the present to come in. And so she gave this advice to the children, and the children as children are, we listen to the advice of our parents from one ear and let go the other. And so they said, okay, mom. Moms are always, telling the kids what to do, so they learn how to tune the moms out. And to appease them, they say, yes, mom, yes. So the kids did that, and then they started working. Now, as they started working, they got good jobs, they had good positions, they got married, they had their families. And so one day, the first son had a knock on his door. And he peeps through the peephole, and he asks, who are you? So the person says, I am the past. So as soon as he hears the advice from his mom, don't let past come into the house. He says, you cannot enter my house. And the past from house says, I got beautiful pictures for you. So the man says, what kind of pictures? He says, when you got the trophy that you won, when you were the tennis champion, and I got the pictures of you getting a trophy from the president, when you were the golf champion, and when you came first in the school, I have the president of the school giving you the diploma. And I've got pictures. And not only do I have pictures, I brought with me your first car, and I have these goodies for you. And so the guy thinks to himself, he says, it can't be too bad, let him in, he's got all these good things. And so he brings past into the house. And the past is telling him, showing him all the pictures and all the good things that happen in his life, and he's very, very happy. And as he's happy, he calls his wife. He says, we got a lovely guest here, why don't you make dinner for him? Invites him in for dinner. And as the wife puts the food to be cooked, the wife comes into the conversation and she says, who is this guest today? She says, he's the past. So the wife gets interested in her past. And so the past is telling the wife about the good things that happened in her life. And they're very happy. In the meantime, the food gets burned. Because they're talking and the wife is very engrossed in finding out and remembering all the good stuff. And so the wife runs to the kitchen and tries to take whatever's on the, the pot over the fire out. And as the wife goes, past talks to this first son and says, your wife was so engrossed, she even burned the food. The guy thinks to himself, he thinks, she's burned food before. I'm so used to eating burnt food, what's the difference? He says, God, I'm so happy in this day and age, she's at least cooking for me, burnt or unburned. And Bass says, she did this last month and she did this 6 weeks ago, and she burned your toast here, and she burned the naan here, she made lousy chapati the other day. Why don't you say something to her? So the guy gets courage, when someone pumps you up, he's courageous. He goes in the kitchen. He says, we have a guest in the house, how can he burn the food? And she says, it wasn't my fault. He's talking about so many good things from the past. And the husband says, every time you cook, you burn the food. Boy, that was it. She says, if you were making more money, I would have a maid in the house. You don't get a good job. You don't make more money. I have to clean the house, I have to cook in the house. And bingo, they start. Back and forth, they're getting angry. They walk away. One goes into this door and bangs the door back. Other walks into that room, bangs the door back. And the next day when they get up, they start to think what happened. Because when they are in their rooms, they start to feel bad as to why they said things to the other person. And then the young man realized what his mother has said, don't let the past come into the house. At the same time, this is a very interesting story. There's a knock on the door of son number 2. He peeps out of the hole and he says, who's there? He says, I am the future. And the son thinks to himself, says, my mom said, don't let the future in. He says, you cannot come in. And future says, I have good news for you. Whenever you hear there's good news, so the son says, what is the good news? He said, let me come in and tell you, you're going to be wealthy, you're going to be rich, you're going to be famous. For as soon as he hears that, he opens the door. So what's the difference? Let him come in. So future walks into the house. He says, yeah, have a seat. And he sits down, and future starts to tell him, he says, you're going to win the lottery. You are going to get a promotion in your job. You're going to be rising into politics, become the mayor of the town. And keeps on and on and on about the future. The guy is getting very happy. He goes to the kitchen. He says, we got a lovely guest. Can you cook good dinner for him? And she says, okay. And as she's cooking dinner, she walks into the room. As she walks into the room, she hears this person telling her husband how he's going to be rich, how he's going to win the lottery. And she calls her husband in the kitchen. And she's a sensible lady. She says, we don't gamble, we don't buy the lottery tickets. How are you going to win the lottery if you don't buy the ticket? Because we never buy the ticket. So the guy is thinking in his head. He says, future is telling me I'm going to win the lottery, and my wife is saying we don't buy the ticket. So he's conniving in his head. He says, how am I going to buy the lottery, not tell her? The person's telling him, you are going to get a promotion in your job. So the wife tells her husband, says, you're so unhappy in your job. And this is why you interviewed with another company, and we've said yes to the other company. We're moving to a new town, and the kids are in school already. I enrolled them. So how can you get a promotion in this job? So he's thinking, even if I don't like the people here, but if I get promoted, I'll be more powerful. I can be here. So in his head, he starts to think of ways and means of staying there. And as he's doing that, the guest goes, and for the next few days, he's conniving in his head. He's trying to lay plans. How is he going to buy the lottery ticket? How is he going to do things at his work? And as he's trying to lay the plan, he realizes that things are not working as his plan is supposed to. And when things don't work, he gets angry. And as he's getting angry, he not only is getting angry with people on the outside, he starts to get angry with his family members. And pretty soon he realizes what his mom told him, don't let the future in. And as this is happening, there's a knock on the third son's house. And he looks at the people and he says, who's there? And the person there says, this is the present. So he thinks about his mom. He says, yeah, she said, let the present in. So he opens the door up and lets the present in. And as the present walks into the room, he says, boy, this is very calm and quiet and serene area. And the present sits on the sofa as the son asks him to sit. He says, what can I do for you? The present says, nothing. I just want to be with you and enjoy the moment. And so as they sit, they're relaxed, they're enjoying the moments, they're happy and blissful. Now that's what timelessness is like. And what breaks our serenity, what breaks our happiness, what breaks our calmness is the past and the future. If you think of what is happening to you, when you're sitting by yourself, you're either thinking about the past, whether it be glorious, which moments are very small, or the difficult times, which seem like take most of the energy. And when you think about the difficult times, you also then start to focus on people who you feel related to that difficult time. Whether they did or not is secondary, but in your system you feel they are the cause, they're the culprits. And then what happens? Anger towards them, hatred towards them, and turmoil in our being starts. And what is it doing? It's taking the present moment and it's destroying it. It's nullifying it, because the current moment is going to become the past very quickly. And in the Sangha tradition, the saints and mystics are always exhorting us to stay in the current moment, because it is the present, it is a gift. When we think about the future, same things happen to us too. As a person, when we sit down, when we are not focused on the past, what are we doing? We're planning for the future. We have big plans in our head. We want this to happen, we want that to happen. We think, let me do this, and this way, and let's see, because we, in our head, have a picture as to where we want to go. But in life, things don't work as we want them to work, because there's a divine plan in play that we're not aware of. Our thinking is limited. And so in that limited thinking, whatever we try to plan, when it doesn't work, then it brings pain to us. And so the saints and mystics have always said, focus on the present, make the best use of the present time, and don't let this moment be wasted. And so what is the best use of this current moment? To take steps towards our goal. Our goal is to know ourselves and be one with God. Our goal is to be able to merge in God. And so we need to take steps which take us there. So the most important step is meditation. When we focus our attention within ourselves, then only are we going to be able to experience of ourselves as we truly are. If our attention is always going out through our senses into the world outside, then we are not taking any step closer to God. So meditation is a means by which we use the time and focus it on God. Simran is a technique by which we still the mind, so that thoughts about the past or the future are not bothering us. We do Simran so that the mind is still, is focused on God. We go to Satsang so that the truth can sink into us. When we go to a Satsang, whether the physical master is there or not, the charging in the satsang is always there. When the satsang is held in the name of the master power, that master power is always there to help guide us. And so time and time again, our attention needs to be focused on the truth for us to gain for ourselves. It's just like we need to repeat the lessons as regularly as possible for that knowledge to sink in. And so in a satsang, you can take any satsang, let's talk about truth, let's talk about the purpose of life, let's talk about why we are here, let's talk about how can we get to our goals. And so it recharges us to take steps towards our goal. And that's what is important. When we do selfless service, then we are helping someone without any rewards for ourselves. That too has the benefits of taking us closer to our goal. So these are the states which keep us from getting entangled in the activities of the world. So saints and mystics are always exhorting us to be in that state. And so when we go to satsang, or when we are helping someone, or when we sit to meditate, we should not try to time ourselves. We should enjoy the moment and let it flow out. So like to set the alarm clock and sit for meditation doesn't make any sense. When you sit to meditate, you should let yourself go and let the power of God overtake your being so that you are in those moments for as long as possible. Time is just there in this physical world. We need to go beyond time and space. We are so focused on the things on the outside, we are so focused on outside space, we have very little inkling of the space within. And so meditation is a means of going within. Meditation is a means of rising above physical body consciousness. Meditation is a means by which we can connect with the divine power within and soar into the regions within. And so that is the kind of time that we should be spending. And the more we focus on our spiritual side, the closer we are getting to reaching our goal. And so as we all gather here on this holiday program, it is the spiritual aspect of our life which we need to focus on. The physical and mental side all depend on the spiritual side. Some Kirpal Singh Ji Maharaj would often say, on spiritual health depends the health of the body and the mind. So we need to heal our spirit. We want our soul to be nourished. And our soul is timeless because it's a part of God. It's not bound by time. And that's the state that we need to recognize. And we all can as we go within ourselves. So in this holiday program, the more time you can spend on your meditations, the better off we all will be. The more time we can spend in doing Simran, the better our meditations would be. And as we gather here, and many of us have traveled many miles to be here, true benefit comes to us when we are in the present. The present moment is a gift. It's a gift of the Lord. That's why it's called a present. And we need to be there to take a present. When you go to, I'm sure you've gone to maybe many fairs and you've gone to places where, they take a gift out randomly for someone. To get the gift, you need to be present there. And so for us to get the gift of the Lord, we need to make ourselves present on the inside. Because if we are not present on the inside, then we are not going to be able to get those gifts. Just like Hazur Baba Sawan Singh Ji Maharaj would often say, he says, I come at 3 o'clock in the morning with a basket of gifts, but everyone is sleeping. So if you're not present, you can't get the gift. To get the gift, you need to be present there. And so our presence needs to be on the inside. And inside is a state of timelessness. There's no time barriers, there's nothing which is forcing us to be done at this time and this time and this time and this time, because that territory is God's territory. That area is divine. That's a state which all of us can reach. So let us meditate for a few minutes. You can all sit as comfortably as you can. Please close your eyes very gently, just like you close your eyes when you go to sleep. Your eyeballs should be straight, as if your focus 8 or 10 inches in front of you. As you close your eyes, those of you who have been initiated in the mysteries of the beyond, please do your Simran. Those of you who are new here, please repeat any name of God that you feel comfortable with. This repetition of God's name should be done mentally and not out loud. I pray to God Almighty to help each and every one of us here connect with the divine power within and to experience the divine light of God within ourselves. As we all said, let the grace of the three great masters of the past century, Hazur Baba Sawan Singh Ji Maharaj, Param Sant Kirpal Singh Ji Maharaj, and the gracious Master Darshan Singh Ji Maharaj, help each and every one of us experience the light in its effulgence. And my best wishes are with each and every one of you.